My fellow Turks and Caicos Islanders and residents, it is with profound pleasure and grace of the Almighty God that I stand before you today as Premier of these beautiful by nature Turks and Caicos Islands. I stand before you as a proud Turks and Caicos Islander who has been given the opportunity by you, the people, with the blessings of the Almighty, to lead our land through this period in history. I came to office with a vision to see a Turks and Caicos Islands with a stable and sustainable socio-political and economic environment, one enabling an environment of healthy living and prosperity for all residents and visitors alike, and Turks and Caicos Islanders that are proud, empowered, and comfortable at every stage of their existence. I knew that the journey towards this vision was not meant to be, nor was it going to be an easy one. And thus far, it has not been an easy journey for many of our people. My government inherited a Turks and Caicos Islands that was broken. Broken in many ways. Broken in spirit, broken financially, broken in hopes for the future. On our journey towards 2012 election, we were acutely aware that the road to recovery would not have been an easy one. We recognized that our mandate was not merely the restoration of things measurable and tangible, but the restoration of national pride, the cultivation of the spirit of hope for ours and the future generations, and to set the compass of progress towards the future destiny of nationhood. No country has embarked on this journey to nationhood has won their independence without sacrifice. Those in leadership who were ultimately successful in the quest for self-government have had to face a challenge of difficult decisions. Like these other nations, during these times, we too are faced with the situations and decisions, which may at the time seem contrary to purpose. But with our eyes ever focused on our ultimate goals, we must remain steadfast and committed. As we remember that no victory has ever been won without struggle, and no success achieved without measure of discomfort. Let us give thanks that we do not exist in those times past, or in the environment ago where freedom and independence required the sacrifice of life and blood. Be assured that this purpose and the vision that I and my fellow elected members in government held before us remains strong in our hearts today as it was 2 years ago. When my government took office, the economy of this country was in a shambles. Austerity measures were the order of the day. The tools for rebuilding were lacking in a weakened civil service, and the rules for the conduct of business on a national level were stringent, giving rise to the attrition in investor confidence. The first order of business of my government was the restoration of a state of positive economic growth and the generation of sufficient government revenue to meet our numerous social, domestic, and debt obligations. As part of our commitment, we halted the implementation of value-added tax, which in our analysis would have had a detrimental impact on our economy and in the short term and in the long term economic growth. We instead implemented a number of short-term taxation measures to bridge the fiscal gap. A combination of this taxation strategy, a rebound in the global economy, and our efforts in tourism have resulted in unprecedented growth in government's revenue with real surpluses, especially during the course of this financial year. This economic growth was realized in all sectors and in all government revenue streams, but particularly so in the tourism sector. This growth in government's revenue has enabled us to make available an additional $5.4 million in the supplementary budget to firstly fund several key government programs, and secondly, reinvest $1 million of that back into the tourism sector for marketing, promotion, and the opening of new offices in new source markets. We came to office with the commitment to lower the taxation burden, simplify the tax code, and make doing business and investing in the Turks and Caicos Islands easy and competitive. To this end, we are well on our way in making good on these commitments. We have already begun to reduce taxation burden by lowering import duties in a number of areas of goods, reduction in new freight and insurance tax, and which shall be removed entirely in April 2015. Reduction in business licenses, with its removal fully in April 2015. Removal of domestic financial services tax on ATM withdrawals, mortgages, and other bank charges. We will continue to reduce the nuisance taxes as we simplify the tax code and lower the burden of taxation on individuals and businesses as the economy of these Turks and Caicos Islands continue to grow and the reliable streams of government revenue continue to increase. Economic growth and development, which includes the employment of our people, was another high priority of government as it went hand in hand with economic recovery. To this end, we have been hard at work at creating the environment within government for the employment of Turks and Caicos Islanders as the revenue of government increases. We have also been pushing ahead many times against all odds, facilitating developments in the private sector with foreign direct investments, especially in infrastructure and construction sector. These efforts saw the start of the Shore Club project on Long Bay, the Sail Rack project on South Caicos, the construction of many homes and villas throughout the islands, and the completion of the East Bay Hotel project in South Caicos, which is slated to open this winter. Our work will continue in 2015 with the start of many new hotel projects, which will include the Desiralis JW Marriott, the Turtle Resort, the Toscana Resort, the Western Hotel Resort, and a few other hotel resorts on Providenciales, the West Caicos Resort, and the North Creek Marine and Resort in Grand Turk. The positive growth of government's revenue this year will allow us to increase our expenditure of over $20 million on major capital projects throughout the islands in 2015, thereby creating more jobs opportunities for Turks and Caicos Islanders and economic growth for local businesses. Many countries globally have been experiencing a phenomenon known as a jobless economic recovery, which normally follows a recession. However, even though there are many individuals who still remain unemployed in the Turks and Caicos Islands, there has been an increase in employment and also a reduction in the unemployment rate since we came to office in 2012. There is, however, much more to be done to get as many of our people as possible on the job and to have the trickle-down effect of the economic growth to the average household. We are confident that as many foreign direct investment infrastructure projects are implemented in 2015, as the taxation burden is lessened, and as the new TC Invest is reestablished, and as the new SME and manufacturing and agricultural policies are implemented in 2015, with the establishment of the growth of the small businesses, an increase in growth will result in wealth being felt in the pockets of all. We therefore stand proud of our accomplishments thus far as it relates to the restoration of economic growth, the creation of jobs, the creation of the platform for the growth of SMEs, and the stimulation of the economy from foreign direct investment, the servicing of our debt obligations, and the enhancement of our capacity to deliver on our social responsibilities in infrastructure development. It is on this positive outlook, combined with the vibrant tourism industry, that we were given a BBB+ stable rating by Standard & Poor's, which we intend to improve on in the near future. Our tourism industry has, without a doubt, been the mainstay of the economy and the main driver of the recent economic recovery from the 2008 recession. We had as our mandate the diversification of our tourism industry, rebranding of the Turks and Caicos, fostering the greater partnerships with the private sector, tourism stakeholders, integration of culture, heritage, and youth as our core elements of our industry, and the development and promotion of new destinations within the Family Islands, and the expansion of marketing and promotion efforts into new source markets. Since coming to office, your government has been active in the promotion of our tourism product, and in the main in existing source markets in North America, in new source markets in South America, and in collaboration with the private sector in a well-organized marketing campaigns and promotion campaign initiatives such as road trips, which we intend to continue on an annual basis. The development and promotion of our heritage and culture will facilitate patriotism and national pride amongst our people. We have amended the National Honors and Awards Ordinance, established a National Honors and Awards Committee, and implemented a National Honors and Awards program that will recognize and show appreciation for our people who have made valuable contributions to our society and the world at large. It is upon this national pride in our heritage and culture and our people that we will build our tourism industry and build this nation of ours. We have brought the Culture Department and Heritage under the umbrella of tourism in order to develop greater synergy between these entities as part of our mandate to develop and promote our culture and heritage as the main driver of our tourism industry. This is also being further accomplished with the introduction of our new Heritage and Culture Month and the National Heritage Day in October. It is our intention to continue making resources available for the development of heritage and culture and of our youth generally, and also in relation to our vital tourism industry. Our new tourism strategic plan, which is currently being developed, will be well informed by the national stakeholder consultations being held throughout the islands and from the recently held successful tourism symposium. This strategic plan will form the basis for a redefined and rebranded Turks and Caicos tourism product that is sustainable and diversified throughout the islands. In facilitation of this, the completion of the Caicos International Airport is next in line to commence within weeks and will increase the much needed airlift and passenger arrivals that will sustain the resort development there and be a major boost to the rapidly recovering economy of our fishing capital. This comes on the heels of the near to completion newly expanded Providenciales International Airport, which will be reopening in December of this year. And so we're looking forward to this exciting things in tourism. The public service is the engine of economic growth and development. And this engine was downsized and reduced in capacity during the interim administration as an austerity measure. With this reduction came the loss of institutional memory, expertise, and experience. Alongside this reduction in staffing numbers was a reduction in salaries and wage freezes. Our government came to office with a mandate to strengthen the civil service and provide better conditions and benefits for our civil servants. This mandate was heavily contingent upon the state and the rate of our economic recovery. Upon assuming office, we were able to reinstate the civil servants' 10% salary reduction and completed the pay and grade review, which required significant expenditure to implement. However, having now been satisfied with the state of economic recovery in government's revenue, we are committed to implementing the new pay and grade scheme for civil servants in April 2015, which will see an increase in salaries for civil servants. This will be followed in 2016 by a general pay rise for civil servants. An increase in government's revenue will now enable government to engage in significant infrastructure, maintenance, and also refurbishment works to government buildings, and also the building of new offices, facilities, thereby creating an ideal working environment that is conducive to productivity. While much has been accomplished in the employment of Turks and Caicos Islanders in managerial level positions within the civil service, there is still much more to be done, especially as it relates to both employment and the building of management skills and capacity. My government will continue to work towards our goal of ensuring that we have a civil service that is comparable in efficiency, effectiveness, and as business friendly as the private sector and any other civil service in the world. The education and empowerment of our people is critical and essential to the progressive and sustainable economic growth and development of our nation. We came to office with many challenges in the delivery of educational services. And even though many of these challenges still exist, we are well set on the path to address these issues. We have conducted nationwide stakeholder consultations on education that are being used to develop our new education policy and curriculum that will cater to the developmental needs of our children. As promised, we are well advanced in the development of a new high school on Providenciales that will alleviate the overcrowding at the Clement Howell High School and thereby create an environment more conducive to learning. We have completed the rebuilding of the Una Glinton Primary School and the administration block of the Helena Jones Robinson High School, and we are awaiting the completion of the H.J. Robinson High School auditorium. We have made available more scholarships and grant funding for tertiary level education, both locally at a community college and overseas. While resources remain insufficient to provide for all persons applying, it is our intention in the short term to continue to increase scholarship funding and in the long term develop a more sustainable scholarship funding mechanism that will be accessible to those persons in need. We continue to work with the tertiary educational institutions overseas to provide the value for money educational opportunities for our students. To this end, we have strengthened relationships with the University of the West Indies by becoming a contributing CARICOM territory, thereby reducing costs of education for both students and government. We will continue to strengthen relationships with institutions in North America and Europe that offer value for money for training in areas of developmental needs in our beloved country. The Turks and Caicos Islands Community College is our tertiary institution, and we are committed to the strengthening of the capacity of our local institution. In this regard, the college is currently engaged in the development of a strategic plan that would give guidance to the growth and development of the college at both campuses in Grand Turk and Providenciales. We will continue to increase the funding of the institution and in the upcoming year engage in much well-needed infrastructural work at the institutions. My government is committed to the development and strengthening of technical vocational education programs in both our high schools and community college. Much work is currently being done to introduce CVQs into our curriculum. And in addition, the European Union EDF 11 grant funding in the amount of almost $17 million will be directed towards education, especially the development of technical vocational education and certification programs, including our already developed hospitality program. The development of a youth and sports program is an essential investment for national development. While there's much to be done, my government has embarked upon the implementation of projects enabling funding for several youth programs. To this end, we have reestablished the Cadet Corps program, which we will strengthen in the next year. And in addition, we'll reinstate the Youth Parliament. We will continue to work with the many established youth organizations that are active in our communities, such as the Rotaract, the Red Cross Youth Arm, and the Young Corporate Alliance. In the next capital budget, it is my government's intention to make funding available for the development of more sports and recreational facilities on all of our islands, and to make these and existing facilities more easily accessible to the youth. The development of these facilities will be concurrent with funding for more structured sporting programs. There have been many challenges in the delivery of health care in a resource-limited environment and a depressed economy, where healthcare consumes a large percentage of our expenditure budget. Nevertheless, in the short time in office, we have been able to improve the delivery of primary health care services with the increase in public health staffing and an improvement in the delivery of drugs and medical supplies. There's still much to be done, however, and we are committed to continuing our work in improving the primary health care infrastructure as well as staffing throughout our islands. We have completed both the Soil Key Clinic and the Middle Caicos Clinic, and are scheduled to be open, and these are scheduled to be open shortly. We are in the process of recruiting pharmacists who will ensure that there will be timely and efficient procurement and distribution of drugs and medical supplies throughout the islands. We are continuing with improvements to the delivery of emergency medical services on all of our islands by employing more emergency medical staff and implementing plans for training of more Turks and Caicos Islanders in this vital area. We are currently have out for tender 5 ambulances that will be distributed throughout the islands to aid in emergency medical care. The government is actively engaged with the providers of secondary care hospital services to our people and is reviewing both the financial and clinical audits that have been conducted and will implement an action plan for improvement of the service delivery in this area to ensure value for money. The last action by the government was the establishment of a Cabinet Hospital Oversight Committee in relation to the above mandate. This will also see the establishment of a highly specialized technical unit within the Ministry of Health that will ensure greater accountability and scrutiny of the hospital providers and their compliance with their contractual obligations under the hospital contract. With the recent regional and international threat of chikungunya and dengue, the government, through the Ministry of Health and Human Services, stepped up and continues to enhance prevention and control measures against these and other vector-borne illnesses. In addition, our efforts in preparedness and prevention in response to the threat of Ebola. Appropriate measures for the detection and isolation of Ebola cases were activated, which saw the implementation of screening measures at the major ports of entry, and these we will continue. A government has as an obligation to ensure adequate social protection for the young, elderly, and vulnerable. To this end, my government has made recommendation to the National Insurance Board to analyze and give consideration for an increase in the non-contributory old age pension next year. We will also make significant advances in the development of juvenile rehabilitation facility, which will be open early in 2015. In early 2015, a number of family and child legislative bills will be brought to the House of Assembly for the strengthening of the social safety nets that will protect our women and children. The protection of our borders is of utmost priority. Hence, our government has been vigilant in the surveillance of our borders via sea, air, and by radar. However, there are challenges due to the lack of marine-based resources. We as a government are committed to closing these gaps and will seek to procure additional marine police vessels to patrol our territorial waters. The radar system, which was not functioning before coming to office, is now fully operational and will be provided with the resources required to maintain its operations. Nonetheless, there are still many persons who find themselves residing illegally in these islands, some of them through no fault of their own, and others by design and a commitment to break the laws of this land. We are committed to bring to the House of Assembly an immigration bill that will regularize the status of those persons who are deserving of such, and thereafter be even more vigilant in removing illegal persons from this jurisdiction. We have improved our capacity, and will continue to do so, of the police force to conduct its work in crime fighting, in community policing, by procuring a fleet of police vehicles in distributing them throughout the islands. Our efforts to strengthen the police force will continue with the reinstatement of the police training program and also improving in police salaries with the procurement of more vehicles and also crime-fighting equipment with special emphasis on community policing. The environment is also what we consider vital to the sustainable development of our islands and the enrichment and diversification of our tourism product. We have as our mandate the development of programs that seek to preserve the natural environment in our ecosystems while at the same time make them available for the enjoyment by residents and visitors to our shores as part of our tourism product. To this end, we have conducted an assessment of our National Parks Ordinance with the recommendations to be made that will be used to amend this ordinance and hence allowing for more of our wetlands to be placed in the national park system, while a smaller fraction taken out of the park system, and allowing for eco-friendly, sustainable tourism-related developments, such as trails and campsites within the national parks. We are also currently reviewing the Crown Land Ordinance, so that necessary amendments can be made to this particular ordinance to the benefit of investment and also to the benefit of our important Turks and Caicos Islanders. We have made much progress on our mandate to improve the delivery of water to our islands with the completion and construction and operation of a new reverse osmosis plant on the island of Grand Turk, and within the coming year, the installation of new water meters to ensure efficient distribution of water. Likewise, we have already completed the Soil Key reverse osmosis plant house, and the Arrow plant will be installed before the end of this year. South Caicos is on track to have the new reverse osmosis plant installed next year. It is our government's mandate to lower the cost of living. One of the components of lowering the cost of living is lowering the tax burden, for which we are on the right course. The other components is the cost of electricity and fuel and the cost of shipping of fuel and goods. To this end, we have completed an energy policy which has received public consultation, and we are now poised to implement components of the policy accordingly in phases, which will result in the lowering of energy costs as a result of energy efficiency and conservation strategies or implementation of renewable source of energy such as solar and wind. Our electricity provider has already made good on such a commitment to absorb and has committed to absorb 4.3 megawatts of solar energy into the grid from independent generators. And this will be facilitated by new policies and new metering systems. In addition, they have begun the installation of energy-efficient LED lighting on our highways that will lower the cost of energy for government. We have signed an MOU with the Carbon War Room to provide us with technical assistance in the transformation of our energy sector as we increase our production of alternative energy and implement programs of energy conservation and to lower the cost of energy to consumers. The cost of living will be further reduced by reducing shipping costs as we implement our plans to create a deep water harbor in Providenciales and in the short term, and also to add another purpose-built location in the medium and long term. It is our commitment to not only lower the cost of living, but to ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders have a greater disposable income for living and for investment purposes. And to this end, we are committed to reviewing and increasing the minimum wage within the next few weeks. A balance of these initiatives, which lowers the cost of living and the cost of doing business, and increasing disposable income for employees, will have a combined effect of an overall increase in the economic growth and development of the Turks and Caicos Islands. So my Turks and Caicos Islanders, To say that the road thus far has not been easy is an understatement. I assure you, however, that this is a journey that we have embarked upon and remain committed to, the one for which you elected us to take. We as a government remain committed to complete and deliver all that we have promised you in our 2012 manifesto, a plan for prosperity, going for gold. Goal of a people educated and empowered and proud of their Turks and Caicos heritage and culture. The goal of an empowered and diverse and socially integrated population that is sufficient to sustain economic growth and development. The goal of a strengthened immigration legislation that speaks to citizenship. The goal of a progressively stable and diversified economy where the people have a high standard of living. The goal of a strengthened national security with a strong police force and a strong marine defense branch. The goal of a strengthened environmental protection and awareness for the long-term benefit of our people. The goal of a country with a constitution and institutions of good governance that ensures the rule of law in a stable democracy is the order of the day. We thank you for your continued support as we stay the course and continue our journey along the road to prosperity for all. May God continue to bless these beautiful by nature Turks and Caicos Islands.